Hello and welcome to the RE Technology webinar. We're going to learn all today about how MLSs can succeed with e-commerce. And I'd like to welcome Lauren Hansen, the CEO of Iris, who's taken a leap into the whole concept of e-commerce, and she's going to share some of her perspectives with us today. And I'm going to be taking us through a presentation that's drawn from a lot of experiences, probably the most of which is my experience in my past life before real estate, where I was head of e-commerce and direct marketing for Mattel Corporation. So I learned a lot about the goods and the bads and the uglies, which we'll share with you. But before we get started, I would love to just have you guys do a quick poll for us. So we're going to put that up on the screen now, and then you can just select it, and then we'll get into the presentation. So the question is, for those that are on the poll, in what time frame are you considering launching an e-commerce program? If you know. If you don't, just say not sure, still evaluating the idea, and then we'll move forward. I'll give you just a second to do that. Just click on the button and hit submit. Okay, great. Thank you guys for taking that time to fill that out for us. I appreciate that. So let me just walk you through some of the things that we've learned. We've been working with some MLSs on e-commerce efforts, and like I say, worked on many e-commerce programs in other industries, so I wanted to just walk you through a few things. And then we're going to have Lauren give us some perspective on what it's like to actually be launching these programs, and ask her a bunch of questions about that too. There will be a opportunity for you guys to ask questions as well. So if you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see a tab called Questions. Feel free to submit those to us, and we'll do our best to answer those for you. Okay, so let's just talk first about the opportunity for e-commerce. There's a lot of opportunities that can happen out of this. The first is just helping to increase awareness of product adoption of, products that either reseller agreements you already have in place, or importantly, core services. We know that when we work with MLSs, so many times there's great products and services available that agents and brokers haven't taken advantage of. The other thing that e-commerce can do is help the MLS through leverage its buying power and create products that agents and brokers can purchase at a discount, and sometimes at pretty significant discounts, which again can increase the value proposition of the MLS overall. And by doing that, it can increase its relevance with members, expand its relationship with members, and of course even provide methods to improve revenues either for the MLS itself or for its shareholders. So I'm going to quickly walk you through a bunch of different e-commerce models, some of which make sense in our industry and at some level. But just to give us a perspective, when we say e-commerce, what do we mean? There's a lot of different ways to look at it. So the first one, and the one that's gotten a lot of talk recently in our industry, is the App Store concept. And Apple, of course, is the one that really perfected this idea, and it's, they make it easy. You go to one place, you click on a link, you download it. Usually they even have your credit card information stored, and there you go. You've got a movie, you've got a song, you've got lots of different things. These are nice, especially in areas where you have products that are relatively consistent and don't require any type of customization. A song is a song. You're not going to change that. It's all fixed content. So these work very well, and obviously Apple has done a great job with making this concept really popular. Amazon, of course, another huge leader, and their whole program is all about comprehensiveness. So this one, where they offer pretty much anything you could ever want, and through additional relationships that change and are growing all the time, you can pretty much buy anything you need on Amazon today. It's not just products that they offer themselves, but through their partnership stores, they've got millions and millions of SKUs that are available for sale. And then there's the eBay model, where there's a collection of stores and referrals that can happen. So any one of us can have an eBay store and can create. There's thousands and thousands of them. They have a great way of making it easy to generate, to do revenue through their PayPal ownership. They make it great for people that are purchasing products to be able to provide ratings on the e-commerce store as well as the product. So they've done a great job of creating a network of small little businesses all over the country. And then there's another model, which is one that's probably closest to what we're going to be talking about today. And for those of you that are aware, there's a site called CNET. And CNET is a great place to go if you're going to be purchasing any type of electronics. So things like a digital camera or tripods or anything like that, televisions, all of that stuff. They do a great job here of providing a comprehensive list of all that's available, and to provide constant feedback on the latest versions of things. So the latest BlackBerry phone, the latest iPhone, et cetera, et cetera. And then they allow you to purchase products through store relationships that they have as well. So there's a variety of different ways to approach e-commerce. They're all different. They all have relevance in certain areas. But there's as many flavors of e-commerce as there's flavors of the way that people approach their MLS. It's a very diverse business. And one of the key things that, and this is really me talking as a consultant to Wave Group, as Wave Group and working with MLSs, is that we've found, and probably no surprise to any of you, it's not as easy as it looks. I've been on calls where sometimes I was on one with one state association where the board leadership would say, well, this is great. Which products should we sell, and how many millions can we make in the first year? It always makes me cringe because it's not nearly that easy. It's like any business. It looks easier from the outside than it does when you actually get in there. So when you talk to, quote, real e-commerce companies, and that means people that are doing like a Zappos, for example, or an American Girl, or people that do direct marketing for a business, they'll tell you that it's an art and a science, that they test everything. They test the offers, they test the pricing, they test the colors, they test the audience, they test the direct mail list that they buy for the audience. They test it all the time. So it's a constant A/B testing environment, which is not something that MLSs frankly have done or have the bandwidth to do. This is not going to be, in most cases, a core business for some of you. So it's something to think about is how do we leverage all that kind of science that goes behind making programs effective. So that's a key element to remember. Here's another thing, that when you go to most e-commerce stores, and frankly to any type of store, there's lots of options in every category, right? So if you go to Best Buy, they don't tell you you can only buy a TV from RCA. I mean, there's Sony and there's 25 other different brands, and they do that. And when you think about it, it's kind of logical. When you go to a mall, for example, you go to a mall because there's lots of different store options, easy to find all in one place. And when you go into a store, there's different, several different colors of something or several different sizes of something. And that's kind of the basis of merchandising in general, is we like to have beautiful, colorful, well-merchandised variety when we look at things. And that's something that, again, is important for us to remember, that just one solution isn't necessarily enough, because for a couple of reasons, and Lauren might get into this later, but one of them is, if an MLS just chooses one solution, does that somehow infer that it's the best solution or that it's the only solution that they recommend? And most MLSs don't want to be in that position, so it's something to think about. The other thing that they do is they tap into seasonality. So, of course, it's coming up on Mother's Day now. So if you look on most sites right now, it's all about, well, Mom wants this, or Mom needs an iPad, or Mom needs a cover for her phone, or whatever. That same thing happens, and of course, many of them are somewhat even sort of created so that there is promotional excitement that's always shown, and that the site always looks new. It always looks like there's a call to action, like I have to buy it right now because I might miss out if I don't do that. And here's another one, and this is one we think is really important for MLSs to think about, the deep discount bundle. So here's an example. This is a site called maclife.com, and they have bundles, and they actually have an email that comes out too. But what they do is they collect a variety of different technology products and then bring it to the market at a significant discount. Now this one's a 92% discount. That's pretty exciting. Now that might sound a little crazy, but in work that we've done with some MLSs, we've actually found that if you collect 3 or 4 different types of technologies, like, let's say like you might do an online marketing bundle, for example. If you work and you leverage the fact that many of you have multiple thousands of customers that you can bring to it, you will be amazed at the types of discounts that you might be able to achieve. And you might be able to build up the volume by including some things that are, that are actually part of your core services offering, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea that you can bring deep, deep discounts, we've tested with many agents across the country, is a very, very positive thing. So it's something to think about for sure. The other one is creating a sense of urgency. So why is it that I should buy that website today and not next month? What is it that the MLS can do to encourage the behavior to happen immediately? And importantly, even for your own core services, and how do we convince them that instead of going out and buying their own document management system, they should use yours? Or if you offer, advertising, why should they use yours instead of someone else's? So that's another key element. So these are all kind of basic tenets that we always have to think about when we do e-commerce. Now, what are the unique challenges for MLSs? Because you're not Best Buy, you're not Toys R Us, you have very different issues. So the first one is that, generally discretionary dollars for members are quite low. They're not spending a ton of things on technology. Most of them have what they have, and they're, for the most part, happy with it. And They're not dying to go out and spend new things. This is not a group of early adopters that has to have the latest and greatest. It's a group that wants to do business, wants to get in the Internet and get off the Internet and go back to selling real estate. And of course, getting the attention of members, especially in certain times of year like right now, is extremely difficult. They're busy. You know, they're out on the road. They're trying to do what they have to do to earn a commission. So it's not like they're sitting around searching and shopping and thinking this is the greatest thing ever. And many of them are sort of change averse. You know, they don't necessarily trust their own judgment. Technology is getting thrown at them so quickly and so fast and in so many different ways. And you know, they're like, what do I do on my iPad, and how do I do it, and what is my smartphone for, and how do I make sure I attach, you know, I talk to customers as fast as I need to, et cetera, et cetera. You know, some of them just don't want to change because they're afraid they'll make the wrong choice. And they don't really know how to evaluate technologies. You know, how do I know that that's the best website for me? Usually they'll choose it because somebody else recommends it to them, not because they really know how to critically evaluate technologies. And this is kind of the gig to vendors. A lot of times when a technology is being shown to an agent or a broker, they're showing them lots of cool features and benefits, you know, features and widgets, but they're not saying, you know what, and if you do this, here's how I can help you sell more real estate. Because at the end of the day, that's really what a realtor needs to do. They need to sell more so they can feed their family. So that doesn't always happen. Here's another one, and this is different for MLSs all over the country depending on the types of things that you currently do, but in some cases, agents don't necessarily think of the MLS as the source for non-MLS technologies. They think of you, of course, as the, you know, the core provider of a very important group of technologies, but not necessarily a place they would go to look for everything. So that's something to think about. And then sometimes there's a potential channel conflict if you're in a market where you have lots of large brokers or even large franchises that have programs that they would like their agents to buy and sell. That can be a problem. Or if you have shareholders and associations, for those of you that are in regional MLSs, and they want to sell products, they may see this as a conflict for them. So there's a lot of things to think about. This is not something that's a slam dunk. And then, you know, one of the things that, you know, as we've looked around is that nobody's really cracked the code on this yet. So, you know, a lot of times, in people that have had a good luck selling products, it's because they have someone on the ground actually supporting it. So they may have a local representative that, if someone inquires about it, goes and does an office meeting and shows that to them. Or if there's a lead that comes in, they call them right away. So, you know, most MLSs don't have sales teams on call waiting to talk about technologies. It's just not something they have. And here's a biggie, and we're going to talk about how we might be able to help with this later, but it takes time to merchandise, it takes time to promote, it takes time to test these offers to find out what really is going to work. And so if you're really serious about trying to generate non-dues revenue, or even if you just want to be sure that your agents know all the neat things that you offer as part of your core package, it takes time to get, you know, to get the right program in place to make it work. And it's sometimes things that just MLSs just don't have time for. There's also something that I've noticed is that we have an industry have a tendency to make our e-commerce sites look sort of clean because we're used to great web development where we know that the simpler it is, the easier it is to digest, you know, the more likely that an agent will be able to take advantage of it. The problem is that sites that are too clean aren't necessarily promotional enough. There's got to be something that reaches out at you and sort of grabs you and says, oh my God, I have to buy that right now. Look, that's the best deal I've ever seen. That's terrific. That looks like a great product. I have to try it. So we have a tendency to be more subtle, and that's not necessarily effective in e-commerce. And here's another reality, that a lot of the products that we offer, you know, things like a website, for example, or you know, a blog or virtual tours, there's a lot of things that require customization. So they're not necessarily as easy to deploy as a 99-cent app. So something that's, you know, that's fixed software that's the same for every person, of course, that works well. But there's a lot of technologies that agents are looking for that they want to really make their own. And it's not as easy to do that as it is a piece of music, for example. Here's another reality that you guys all have to think about, too, that if you try to push, quote, add-on products more or even sometimes as much as your core products, that you can see pushback. And you'll hear things like, well, geez, why don't you just go fix that MLS system instead of trying to sell me something else? You know, they'll start to complain. And so there's a fine balance of promoting products effectively without, you know, interfering with the core business, which of course is the most important. And then the final one, and this one I think is just the way it is. You know, MLSs were not set up to be sales organizations. They're set up to, you know, to do amazing things with service and to provide great tools that are really, you know, core and very important to their clients. But they're not necessarily about trying to sell something every day in addition to those core services. And that's a key element that we have to recognize, that if we're going to do this, we need support in trying to figure out how to really do this, because it's not like anybody's got staff sitting around that's not busy already. So that's a key element. And here's a big one. This is the one I think we all need to think about. Just because you build your store doesn't mean anybody's going to show up. So I use this example here of, this is a store that, number one, you can see nobody's in. But it sort of has sparsely filled shelves. It might have one or two options. It doesn't have a full, colorful array and great engaging visuals as to why I should come and look. And frankly, this is where a lot of us are right now. We don't have, we don't have an engaging store where people say, "Oh my gosh, I have to go check that out right now." And we're not promoting it enough to get anybody in the door. When you think about successful stores, they promote all the time, and that's again something we need to think about. All right, so how can MLSs win with e-commerce? I'm going to just go through this, and then we're going to quickly start talking to Lauren, because she's living it, and so she can give us some really good ideas of how it's working for her so far. So here's one of the key questions you have to ask is, what am I trying to solve? So am I looking for just people to look for my current offerings and be able to take advantage of them more effectively? Is this truly about trying to create true incremental profit, or is it a way where maybe I should break even just so that I can have better services and a broader breadth of offerings? Is it that I may need to offer additional products and services because I have a diverse customer base? So, could I use a store to do things for appraisers, for example? That's another thought. Am I doing it to take credit for the fact that I can leverage my my full network to get deep discounts and to truly help realtors be able to do more with less? There's a lot of different rationales and motivations for doing this, and that's probably the most important question to first ask is, what am I doing it for? And here's lots of things to think about. Just some ones that we've learned, though. Like I mentioned, hopefully you're hearing that from me, is that don't do this unless you're willing to really commit some time and energy to it. It really takes significant effort to do this. If you just put it up and let it sit there, it'll be fine, but it's not going to really make a huge impact. And it's important for us to remember that when someone's buying something and they're investing in it, it really requires research and fact-checking. So we need to be able to provide them with that opportunity to find ways to do that. And as I mentioned, many technologies require significant setup and customization. So what do we do to make that easy for them? And then probably the most important is there's no guarantee of success on this thing. And it's important when you talk to your board about this, if they decide to go forward, that they don't think of this as a new money tree, that this is going to happen in 10 minutes, and by the way, there's just lots of money that's going to happen. And we've had examples of that, other examples in the industry. Sometimes ad networks have fallen flat on that. Some of the programs with content sharing and listing sharing haven't fallen down. So it's important to really set the stage that this may, in fact, be a profitable business over time, but this is not something if you're looking to help make your budget for 2013. It's going to be more of an investment probably in the short term. Okay, so what's the connection between RE technology and e-commerce? Why would we be talking about this, or why do we think we might be able to help with this? I'm going to just kind of walk you through our thinking of how we came to this, just for your sake. And again, feel free to ask questions at the end if there's still open questions. But just to remind us about what RE technology does. So what we've become really is the #1 technology education and, importantly, research destination. There's about 700 subscribers that have availability to this. And importantly, because we have content that's been written in plain English that's really, by definition unbiased, really trying to be truly educational, we have a highly engaged group of regular readers. They come back looking for information from us all the time. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is get them to come and look at what you're doing. So there's an opportunity for us to leverage that. We're sort of the one location to get the best of the best. So we don't write all of the content. We work with great technology minds around the country, and we pull in content from all of them. So it's one place to go, and you get all kinds of great information. It can be localized. In many cases it is. So it's just information that's for your specific group of members, and can be, by the way, any of you that are RE technology members, anytime you have content you want us to share just with your members, feel free to pass it to us, and we'll be glad to post it. And then it even allows for customization by association within a regional MLS. So those are important elements. So it's helping MLSs become the source of technology expertise. It's helping help desk because it helps answer questions, or someone calls and says, which MLS vendor or which IDX vendor should I use, you can say, geez, that's a great question. You should go to RE Technology that we offer to you for free, and you'll be able to do all of your own research for yourself. So you don't have to be that one to make a recommendation. And then there's also kind of a nice side benefit is that RE Technology is helping technology committees and MLS leadership themselves stay abreast because we have MLS technology issues in there as well. So it does a variety of things. But it was really intended to be, for lack of a better definition, the CNET for real estate, the place to go for content, information, reviews, dialogue with other professionals to really understand and put it all in one place to make it easy. There wasn't, until RE Technology, there was no place to find all that information. And then, of course, what's helping, what we're hearing, at least from our subscribers, your subscribers that are coming to us, is that they're getting more comfortable with technology. They're learning about trends in a way that's sort of in a safe environment for them. They're learning from fellow top producers from around the country, and it's allowing them to look at products side by side. So it's doing a lot of the things that we had intended it to do, and at least that's what they're telling us, so that's encouraging. So, it's right inside the MLS, so this is great. If someone has a question, let's say someone's thinking about buying something, it's easy. It sits right inside of the MLS, or it sits on the member benefits page, or it sits in the message of the day. Makes it easy for them to go to a place to find and to investigate if they want to, as well as to continue to learn on a daily basis. And so that localized daily and weekly digest email newsletter that goes out is really absolutely the perfect test marketing tool, because it gives us the opportunity to promote products on a daily basis if we wanted to. It allows us to distribute localized offers from e-commerce. So if you said that I want to put these 5 products together and I want it to be a $49 package, we can do that, and it would be just for your members. And by the way, we could change them as often as you would like to change them. It also provides us with an ability to promote your core services to build adoption. Lauren's going to talk about some really neat things she's doing, not so much to even sell new things, but to allow them to understand all the great stuff they already can get. We have webinars that we can offer, similar to what we're doing right now, that you could host. There could be custom bundles, custom messaging, custom pricing. All of that stuff can be done just for your audience within this newsletter. So it exists. You have members already signed up for it. Of course, we can always get more, but it's a great built-in tool that's simple to execute, and of course that's what we're all looking for. So the basic concept, like I say, of RE Technology is this sort of CNET for real estate, and when we started it was CNET meets Toys R Us. So we can write articles and we can intrigue them, we can get them interested, we can encourage them to do research, they can get advice from each other, they can look at options, they can connect to directly to the vendor if they want to learn more, and ultimately that takes them all down the sales funnel to creating a purchase and to ultimately creating revenues. So that's in a nutshell what we're up to. I'm going to show you a little bit more specifics in a minute, but I want to turn it over to Lauren, who's, like I say, been just at this for a few months because it's a relatively new concept, but thank her for spending the time with us today to share her ideas and how this is working for her. So welcome, Lauren.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So maybe you could just start with telling the audience, we had that slide which showed all of the different things that e-commerce may be designed to accomplish. Tell us what, from your perspective and your board's perspective, what is it about e-commerce that you think that your members are going to get out of this? What are your goals?
First of all, very nice presentation. I think you wrapped that up so well, and it was a good reminder. I made some notes myself of things that we need to go back and revisit. Primarily for us, rather than focusing on non-dues revenue at 27 cents per sale or whatever it might be, we really wanted to provide a service and offer more products if that came down the pike, but also at the same time leverage the services that we already offer. And heaven forbid, I didn't want our users. We have online contracts, as an example, that are integrated with our system. What I wanted to help avoid is any of our subscribers purchasing online contracts when they're already part of our system, as an example. I mean, certainly they can do that, but being able to list what we offer and promoting that, leveraging that as part of this was also attractive to us as well.
Gotcha. So you weren't saying that this is going to be the next big business for you and it was looking for huge profit. It was more of improving your services and the ability for them to take advantage of your services. Is that a fair summary?
Exactly. Although, you know, if revenue started to come through the door, we certainly wouldn't refuse it, but that was not the initial goal at all.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, you know, what got you thinking about launching an e-commerce effort in the first place? Why did you even consider going down this path and taking on yet another project? Because I'm sure your team is very busy already.
And initially, quite frankly, I thought it was a headache in search of an aspirin, and then once we started to talk, and I think Victor did a really nice job as well about describing all of those different pieces that come from RE technology already, such as rankings and customer reviews rather than purely promotional coming from just the company. It's actually those that are out on the sidewalk and using it, as well as everything, all of the information that's tied to it, be it informational articles or linking to the company. It's just a really robust potential environment for our users to take advantage of. So that was very attractive to us.
Gotcha. Now, you know, one of the questions that we get a lot when we talk about this is, well, which products would I sell, and you know, how do I decide which products to sell, and you know, what would you describe that to? Like, how did you decide which products to offer?
We started with, and it's still, you know, keep in mind that with all of my comments, this is still in development and taking shape, but we started with the companies that we already have a relationship with or that are well known to our subscribers already, such as DocuSign. We have that integrated with our contracts, and it's one of the NAR preferred partners, so that's an easy pick. We have IDX providers. We have a relationship with Cloud CMA and WNR Studios. So for us, it was starting with who do we already know, who's in the industry
Gotcha.
that we can use.
Gotcha. And do you have revenue shares in place with them, or is it more of an advertising relationship, and how do they work together with you?
We decided to do the placement model. So the companies pay to have placement on the site rather than, like I said, 27 cents or 1.3% of whatever it is. We just decided it would be much simpler math that way, quite frankly. And for this initial step, we wanted to, our goal was just to recoup our costs and move on down the road.
Gotcha. So that's an interesting point, because I think that is one place that I've seen that MLSs sometimes get hung up is, and there's a few MLSs that have sort of a person and their job is to negotiate reseller programs, but most don't. And so the thought of saying, I'm going to have, I'm making up numbers, but 50 to 100 products, and I'm going to have to negotiate a separate program with each one of those vendors gets to be kind of overwhelming, and people say, oh, forget it, that's too much work. But what Lauren is talking about is kind of what, I'll use a dumb analogy, but if you walk down the shelves in Walmart and you see those things they call them end caps, where there's at the end the big sign that says $29.99, that space is actually for sale in Walmart. You actually pay additionally to get that exposure. And that's basically what you're talking about, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, you do. Trust me. I've spent a lot of money to Walmart over the years with that stuff. But that's the kind of thing you're talking about. So if you want that front placement in my store, you pay me a flat fee. It's one transaction, and then it's over. And you actually even set a flat amount for that placement, I believe, right?
Correct. Yep.
So it wasn't any negotiation. It was, this is what we're doing, and take it or leave it. So that can make it easier for those that might want to think about doing this. And are you continuing to look at adding new vendors over time, or is that something that's kind of an ongoing program?
Ongoing, and the answer is yes. And one of the things that we wrestle with, however, and you and I talked about this on a preliminary basis, but we are trusted with our customers. The MLS is kind of seen as we not only have reliable data, but when they call for help, they know that they're going to receive that, and it's very targeted. So by branching out into this store, are we also giving them the impression that we are endorsing these products? And if it happens to be a company that we already have a relationship with, that's not a problem. But if it's unknown to us, how do we manage that?
Right.
And it's still a question, really.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of different options for that, and I think that's a very important question that every MLS needs to grapple with, that your reputation for delivering reliable quality service that's easy to use is, bar none, the most important thing that all of you deliver and bring to the table. So any technology company you'd work with would have to meet that hurdle. And one way that some people get around it, and frankly it's the way that RE Technology is built on purpose, is that we never wanted to be a group that said that this mobile app is better than this mobile app. We always wanted to be one that let the agent and broker decide the answer to that question, which is why we encourage reviews and let the community tell us what the best ones are, so that we're not putting words in people's mouth or encouraging. So that's one way to potentially get around it, is to say, well, we'll just offer several options. We'll encourage people to review and provide feedback to each other on the tool, which the tools we're going to look at will allow that to do, and then let the market judge as it judges. But with that even said, though, I mean, I certainly understand from your guys' perspective, what if it's an unreliable tool, or if somehow the data they need that's coming from the MLS isn't being populated properly, et cetera, et cetera. There's still some vetting that probably needs to happen, just to be sure that you're not creating issues for yourself or for the vendor, or most importantly for your members. So
exactly. And I think the other thing I would add to that too is the other balancing act is, are you going to be posting something or offering something that I lovingly refer to as a solution or a problem a solution in search of a problem, where no one needs it, no one cares, and yet you're filling up your store. Another balancing act, and I think the offset of that is listening to your customers.
Mm-hmm. Right. So having them tell you the kinds of things that they may want to purchase that you don't have to offer at this point?
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, got it. Okay, so when you looked at this, you really weren't looking at this as a profitable, I shouldn't say, it's not that you were wanting to lose money on, but your primary motivation was not to make profit initially, correct?
Right, and I think that was a dose of reality for ourselves, rather than having been through a public listing website, and back in the days when they would tell you that if you just sell a few banners that you'll be raking in the dough, and of course that never really came to pass. So yeah, we just looked at it as a break-even, not necessarily revenue generating at this stage.
And so in so doing that, did you look at the relative investment of what you were going to purchase to enable this stuff, so it wasn't going to be a huge deficit for a while? Did you look at something that was kind of more financially relevant, or more affordable than you might have if you thought of it as more of a for-profit venture?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that I mean, it doesn't mean that you want the absolute cheapest entry into it, but you want something that can be justified to your leadership and isn't going to create too much of a blip on the screen.
Gotcha. Okay, good. So the sort of the million-dollar question for you, Lauren, and I know you've been at this just a few months, so you're still learning as you go, but what are the words of advice you would give to those that are on this call, either the technology companies, because we have some of those, as well as the MLS is thinking about, should I go down this road? Is this something that I should engage in? What would you tell them? What have you learned so far that you could share with them?
I think the place that I would start is by making a list of 3 things. What do you offer now that you can promote to your users, so the price tag will be 0, but it's a great reminder to all of your customers that here is what we're doing for you already, be it part of your system or a license agreement that you have that's part of your package. I would then make the second list of things that you can upsell today, whether you have premium products or a premium level of something, or you already have a relationship with IDX providers, for instance, or what have you. And just start getting your brain cells moving in acting like a business. I mean, we're told that a lot, but what is it that you have that not every customer knows that you offer? The third list that I would make would be, what is it that you're lacking? Where is a void and what products would match that void, either by listening to the customers and what they need, or what's out there that would be fun to offer to them that you don't already have. And by a combination of those three, I think you can start to see a store take shape, really. And if you don't have enough content, I guess, to put that list together, frankly, I'd say it probably isn't for you. But if you start to see, oh, there's new reports out there, and are there other opportunities, even a Starbucks gift card to get them attracted, or what have you, just get creative with the possibilities.
Gotcha. Now we've got a couple questions for you, Lauren. One was, can we see your store? And I'll answer that one. We're going to show that in a second. We're going to walk you through it quickly. The other one was, what about freemium apps? Do you offer any of those in your store?
We do.
Okay.
Well, go ahead with your.
No, that was just no. That's fine. Go ahead. Just I want to make sure you understood it, because that word freemium is kind of weird sometimes. Go ahead.
One of the, well, and let me answer it in my way, and then you can rewind if it's not in the direction. One of the things that we have is a site license with Cloud CMA. So we have promotion for them that is set aside, but they don't have, the users don't have to buy anything. And we are looking at doing more of that, and it's one of the to-dos that I have written down, that we need to get a little bit more stickiness with some of the services that we offer or that are available, and maybe we give the company a month or two of free placement and see how it works for them.
Interesting. So you may actually test market with potential partners.
Absolutely.
Let them give it a shot, and one thing is aside for that too is that there's a lot of great marketers in this business, and that when you said to them, I will give you a front place if you help me figure out how to sell this effectively, it probably opens up marketing and design resources that you may not have internally that could really help you guys with that, so something to think about. Another question for you, Lauren. Do you have multiple versions from different vendors of the same product? So like, do you have multiple website solutions or something like that as an example?
We will. At this point in time, it's minimal, but we will. I can't accurately tell you how many IDX providers we work with, but it's got to be over 2 dozen. How many of those want to advertise on the Success Store, I have no idea, but I think offering choice is giving the options to the users and combining that with the ratings and rankings and whatever pricing structure they happen to have is just giving our users more options.
Interesting. Okay, great. Okay, I think those are the questions we have for you now. I'm sure if anybody has any others for Lauren later, just let us know, but we're going to keep moving. So thank you so much, Lauren.
I have one other interjection, if I may.
Perfect. Go for it.
Because I thought it was interesting. In one of your bullet points, you talked about potential conflict with associations or your shareholders. One of the things we decided to do early on before we launched, but when we were in the kind of final discussion stages that here's what we're going to do, is I contacted each of our shareholders and said, this is what we're doing. Do you have any products that you would like us to include at no charge? Because the other thing that Victor mentioned early on is that the system is smart enough to know that if Becky Broker logs in, that Becky is affiliated with this franchise and this board, and so she would see content that was specific to her. So anyway, we kind of tried to, I guess, cut it off at the pass before we had any hand-on-hip attitudes of, why are you doing this, and this is in direct competition. We wanted to get them involved and welcome. Now, I will also tell you that they have not taken advantage of it to date. But I think we need to do, again, a follow-up and say, this really is live. It's available to you, and let us know if you want to do it.
Gotcha. Well, it was probably smart to head it off at the pass, but you're right. I mean, you can almost use it the other way, too, as an opportunity, and even though not worry about the conflict if there isn't one, but to say, we've provided you an opportunity to do that because, of course, many associations are looking at ways to strengthen their revenue base as well, or, again, to improve their level of relevance. So that's good stuff. Right. Anything else that you wanted to share?
when you talked about testing, one of the things that we haven't done yet, and I'm pretty sure that we can work with our vendors or the whatever you call them, the stores that are here, the products, is that we want to do a social media test. So if we've got, a blog and Facebook and all kinds of ways that we can communicate with our users, but exclusively off of the MLS system on purpose, test and see and maybe give away 2 or 3 free products of whatever it is, or a month or 3 of subscriptions, and just see what kind of response we get. Because we know we have eyeballs out there, but how many of them are really paying attention?
Exactly.
So that's one of the things that we have down the road that we want to do.
That's great. And, when you think about the type of communications that work with realtors, and it's not so much coming from MLSs, but you think about people like, Brian, the Mike Ferries of the world, and the trainers, the ones that really get the attraction and the attention of agents. It's very loud. It's very upbeat. It's very, yay, let's go do more of this. It's very emotional and inspirational, and to the degree that we can capture some of that same type of emotion, that's the kind of thing that agents really get attracted to. That's something to think about. So that's kind of offers you talked about are a great idea. Anything else, Lauren?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to switch now. I'm going to walk you quickly through 3 different versions of the ways that we can work with MLSs, and these have been designed, frankly, as we've gotten to know the needs of MLSs more in terms of what different types of iterations might make sense, and they're designed for different scenarios and different types of board makeup. So we'll just walk you through these quickly. There's 3 of them. We call it Success Trigger, Gallery, and Store. And the first one is the Success Trigger, and basically the idea of this one is for if you're in a situation where you may not want to yet invest in a full freestanding store, but you may want to give it a try. You want to see if you could collect some non-dues revenue or promote the products that you already offer. This is a way to take basically your RE technology installation that you already have and turn on an e-commerce component within it for simplicity's sake. So, many of you have been on it, you know that there's articles that happen. So someone might look at an article and say, oh, that's interesting, I want to learn a little bit more. And so they might say, oh, I'm going to look at the category of QR codes and see what's available in it. And then I might actually click into a product and see the company information and learn more about it. And then I might say, oh, well, let me do some research and see what are people talking about with QR codes these days, and what are the trends, and what are the kinds of things I should look for, and what are other agents saying about it. And then I might say, okay, well, I found a couple of products that seem to match the things that seem to make sense for my business. I'm going to go get a demo, or I'm going to get a price quote, or I'm going to ask them a question. So kind of what we're doing here is, to go back to the sales funnel ideas, we're kind of walking them down the funnel. We're getting them interested in the topic, interested in a particular product, interested in a particular type of product, and getting them to say, wow, that's interesting, let me see if I can learn more. So then what can happen is within your store or within your product listings, there can be just that simple buy now button that you see over on the right-hand side. So when someone goes and does all that research and then they say, oh, I'm interested in buying it, you can actually enable it to happen right there. So they don't have to go to a different place. They can just go right through a process that our technology readers are already going through and just taking it to one more step. And so in that process, you could decide what are the products that should be in that. You can decide, which partnerships, which pricing that I might want to offer, if there is a revenue share, or if you want to do the program that Lauren just described, which is more of an ad placement. You can collect the monies directly so that you know exactly what revenue is being generated from this program. That's one of the things that we hear sometimes from MLSs is I have these reseller programs in place, but I get a check at the end of the month. I have no idea, if that's really the number of people that purchase because there's no sort of audit trail. So that's something this does as well. And importantly here, this model is very different than some of the others that you may have seen or heard about. There's no commission here. So RE Technology is simply a technology provider. We're not taking any transaction fee from this at all. So you basically, as the MLS, are in the center. You decide which products to sell at what price and with what revenue share, if that's appropriate, or with what ad placement like Lauren's doing. And the deal is completely just between you and the vendor. And the other thing this is kind of interesting about is that this doesn't require a vendor to do anything differently than they normally would. So once someone purchases here, They simply push the button and say yes. You know, if it's a free product, it might connect back to the MLS or to the vendor that they're working with. If it's a for pay product, monies would be collected, and then it gets transferred. There's an email that gets submitted right over to whoever the vendor is that needs to provide the product, and it goes from there. So the deployment process is not affected in any way, which is a good thing in the sense that it does not slow down anything in terms of the number of people that might participate in this program. Okay? So that's Success Trigger. Let me go to the next one. So Success Gallery is the one that Lauren ultimately opted in for. And this one is for those that don't necessarily want to stand in a standalone store yet as well, that want non-dues revenue but don't want to handle, as Lauren was saying, the 27 cents in revenue share. They want to sort of just get it off the plate. They want to offer the program and it be, offered additional products and services to their members, promote products that they currently offer, but they don't want to deal with the accounting. And we found that there's a fair number of associations and MLSs that fall into this camp. So in this case, it's the same process. So they would go in, they'd look at the content, they'd look at the product descriptions, look at, get a demo, hit the buy now. And when they hit the buy now, instead of going to a set store, to one store, it can go to a variety of places. So here's what Lauren's store looks like. So she has vendor products and Ira Services products. So in the vendor products, there's products like Calo Property. She's got one. I don't think there's about 10 or 15 of them now, right at this point, Lauren. And then there's also services that that they're offering, like Facebook apps and things like that. But what happens is if anyone clicks on Buying Now, it takes them over to the store of the vendor. So in this is a Nudge, for example. It would take them over here, and then the agent would actually buy it from Nudge directly. And then Nudge does the processing, Nudge does the billing, Nudge does the setup, and then passes back a portion, whichever has been negotiated, or again, an ad placement fee, whichever is appropriate, back to the MLS. So the MLS stays out of it. They just basically facilitate the process, and then it gets pushed to the e-commerce opportunities within each vendor. Okay? And then in this case, what we're doing, because the MLS is not tracking sales, they're simply facilitating the process. There's actually a report that allows the MLS to see the click-throughs to vendor sites. So we're basically putting in a tracking mechanism that, let's say that Nudge gets 500 click-throughs and they sell 100 products. It helps both sides understand, well, did we do the right thing to create enough click-throughs, number one, and to help the vendor understand, did we do enough to convert? So you can start to look at ratios of saying, wow, 100 people came over and 97 of them purchased. We must have done a great job. Or 100 came over and 2 purchased. Maybe we're not doing such a great job. So it provides another type of dialogue that the MLS can have with its vendor partners to try to make the whole program more successful, and it really helps everybody in the process. So that's the second version. So we started with one where the agent purchases it through RE technology. The MLS takes care of the billing. In this case, the vendors take care of the billing. Okay. Now there's another approach, and that's the Success Store. Now this is really more, I think, when we think of e-commerce, this is a full program. So this is for MLSs that truly want to be resellers of the products, and they want their own freestanding store that's likely to be branded, similar to other programs that they have online. So this product is a full service. This is a complete e-commerce. I'm going to show it to you in a second. But it's a standalone store. You can add multiple products in multiple categories. It allows for multiple types of pricing and billing, which is important in our industry. So you can have things like a setup fee with an ongoing monthly fee, or a monthly fee, or an annual fee, or a quarterly fee, or any iteration of those as well. So it's important because we deal with such different, a diverse array of types of products that are available. We've built all that in. It also includes promotional codes. So like what Lauren was saying, if I wanted to do, get 3 months free if you use this promotional code, and you get this, sign up before Tuesday and get that. It allows all those discount promotional codes, free offer promotional codes, all that kind of stuff. It also has the ability for an agent to create a wish list and to share that, and I'll show you that in a second. Also to compare products. So a lot of these probably sound similar to what we do for listing sites. It's the same kind of concept. It has the ability to do quick polls, to have a newsletter if that was appropriate for you, to have featured products. So this is the full boat. This gives you, pretty much everything if you really wanted to create your own your own program. So it has, the good thing about this is it's integrated into RE technology, so you can leverage a lot of that content that we've talked about in terms of reviews and education and things like that. It also can be deployed very quickly. These programs can be up in 2 to 4 weeks. This is not 2 to 4 months or longer than that. And they're pretty affordable. I mean, for me to judge, of course, I think they're affordable. But from the MLSs we've talked to, it seems as though they're priced in a place where it allows me to test this concept out without really going to the bank on this, because a lot of your investment are going to be in bigger products like MLS systems and tax systems and showing appointment software and things like that are absolutely core to what your market needs. This allows you to get into the game without breaking the bank. And again, it's open to all vendors, so there's no need to comply with any API. So any vendor that you like, any vendor that wants to work with you is able to do this, and they can do it right now. They don't have to do any adjustments. Okay, so let me show you the demonstration real quick.
Marilyn, while you're setting that up, the other thing that I might also add is due to PCI compliance, which means that we are no longer directly handling any credit card transactions at all, it was also attractive for us to have buy now go directly to the vendor, and they handle that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we'll talk about that. This site actually is PCI compliant, but that is an issue that a lot of MLSs just want to steer clear of. You try to steer clear of it in every part of your business. So again, there's a path around that if that's something that's a deal killer for you. So this is an example. This is the success store. You'll notice on the right-hand side here, you'll see there's an ability to add a poll. So if you had a question like, what products and services would you like to buy from Iris? You could answer that right there. Or if you wanted to just do it to keep engagement levels up on, what do you think of the latest feature we just added into our MLS system, or whatever. It could be a variety of things. Now you can see there's featured products here, and this is kind of fun. This was actually where we started with Lauren. If you see these prices, that some of them are zeros, and some of them are actual prices. So this is what you can do when you have something that's of value that you're not charging for. They can actually, quote, purchase it from you, but they can recognize they bought it for free, which is great. And then they can still buy other products that are, that are still for sale. So it can be a mix of those things at any one time. Obviously easy to offer things like that. And so let's say if I wanted to go to Colorado Contracts, I wanted to add that as a wish list. I can just click Add to Wish List. And then I can sign in because I've logged in as a customer. And there we go. We have a wish list easily made. I can also share that wish list. I can add all of them to a cart. So if I said I'm still thinking about this, I'm going to put them in a wish list and then ask my teammates if they like these or whatever. And then I can update those at any time. Then of course it has full e-commerce capabilities, just like any site would. It allows us to to purchase the product really quickly. There can be different instructions on it very quickly, and there's a follow-up email that comes out literally within seconds that secures and says thank you for the order, and also provides instructions that would be preset up to say, okay, this one you bought from DocuSign, you'll be hearing from them within blank hours. Here's the person you'll be hearing from. If you have any questions, call. Those kinds of things. So you can make all of the deployments pretty much the same way you would normally do it, but you can do it through an e-commerce program. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's a simple program. It's fully customizable in terms of look and feel, of course. So it can match your look and feel of whatever site that it is that you feel comfortable about. It has this top program where you see where it's rolling different promotions. This is a great place where you would put those promotional offers I was talking about. There's a way to compare products over here as well. So if you wanted to do same thing like we do with listings, you can do that here. Of course, the internet's slow today when I want to show you that. Here you go. So this is someone asked about multiple products. So this would be a great place if I said, I'm not sure if I want to buy IDX vendor A or IDX vendor B. You can line them up side by side, and you can actually see the differences in the descriptions and in the features. So this is a fully functioning, full professionally built success store concept. Again, if this is where you want it to go, this is very simple. It's customizing it to your needs, populating it with the content that you want, and you go from there. So it's pretty simple. It's kind of what we kind of think of as the affordable way to try this out. None of us have figured it out yet, but while we're figuring it out, maybe we can get in business doing this, and then we can go from there. So That's it in a nutshell. I'm going to show you a couple of other things too. Is there any questions about the site while I'm there? If anybody wants to write in, if we got any questions at this point? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of go through that with you. With Success Store, again, you're in complete charge of the merchant account. So you have full transparency to what monies are being collected, which again is important to some MLSs, so we were careful to do that. These also integrate with most accounting systems, all the large ones that we believe most of you guys are using. And if you're using a system that we are not, it's not a huge programming deal to integrate into a new system, so that wouldn't be a deal killer at all. And with that, we also provide pretty robust reports that are going to show you sales by product, by time period, by price point, et cetera, et cetera. And again, that's to be used when we think about testing and retesting what we do. These can be used to inform progress in terms of revenue growth, but also to start thinking about, do we need to change our mix? Do we need to change our price point? Do we need different bundles? It's used to help you analyze the business so that you can get better and better at it. So here it is in a nutshell. It's, you take all that RE technology content, marry it with the idea for you to be in complete charge of what it is that you think needs to be offered in that store. That's in essence what it is. Okay, so what can we do to help make it a success? So I've thrown a lot of things at you, and I know you guys are probably like, oh my God, I don't have another set of 5 hands to make something like this work. How would I do it? So just some other thoughts of ways that RE technology might be able to support you in the effort if you, so choose. So one, and this is probably the most important, is the success merchandising. Because again, we have these built-in marketing channels that we can use, we can create with you turnkey marketing campaigns that are not designed just to build awareness, but importantly to convert. I mean, that's what this is about, right? If we want to either convert them to understand that, wow, we offer all these great services and they never knew it before and now they're using them more effectively, or we want them to purchase, that's important. We could create monthly or quarterly promotional plans. We can help determine product priorities from your members if that's important. We can work with you to identify those products and even help negotiate if you want us to. Again, we really clearly believe the MLS should be at the center of this. We would be here to support you in effect if that was something that you felt that you wanted and needed. So we could use these newsletters, like I said, there's all kinds of neat things that we can put in here to push it. We have webinars, just like we're doing today, where, again, we could schedule those monthly and promote them just to your members. We even have technology conferences. We've worked with a few associations where we've actually put the content together. We've brought in the vendors that were the sponsors of it and made the whole thing, work and again, bring this whole concept right to the ground level. So lots of things that we can do to help you with that. But, we really want to do this for the industry, but we want to do it in a way that makes sense. That we walk before we run, because it's brand new to all of us, and we want to help us all figure out the best way to make this work so we can be successful and we can be as profitable with it as soon as we possibly can. So where do you go from here? I guess there's a few fundamental questions that we would suggest you ask. And by the way, this presentation will be available to any of you afterward too. But so first question is, how big a priority is this? And do we want to take on the focus of selling more to clients or attracting newer clients? What resources do we need? How much are we willing to invest in it? Should we walk before we run, or should we jump in headlong? How much of the site development and marketing and promotion can we outsource, and at what rate? And is it affordable, and does it make sense with the number of members that we have? And importantly, how much patience do we have to create a return on investment? I think Lauren would probably agree that if this is something that needs to return something to you by the end of the quarter, probably not something you want to do. There's probably faster ways to get there. But if you see this as a valuable member benefit that provides them with additional information, helps them make better decisions, helps them get better prices on things, then it might make sense for you to look at it. But again, big decision for you to make. Okay? Yeah. So questions. So we have just a couple that I've seen. Yeah. Oh, yes. Actually, before we do that, yes. Can we? We're going to post another polling question for you while we're here, and then I'm going to ask for questions from the audience. I don't see it yet. Is it up? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question is, how important is it to you that the e-commerce provider does not charge a commission for every purchase by your members? I'm not seeing it on my screen now. Okay. They see it? Okay. So we're just trying to understand what kind of business models are really important to you guys. It's important for us to continue to evolve as we do that. Okay. So we do have a question. Okay. The question here is kind of interesting. And it's back to you, Lauren. You know, one of the things that you and I have talked about, and it's interesting, it just came up as a question, was the kinds of merchandising that we would all probably do on this is something that would be probably we could use in more than one market, because you guys are not competing against one another. So let's say that Lauren did a free 3-month offer on some product. Let's say just pick Cloud CMA because we talked about it, and it worked brilliantly. Or that we built a program that had a really interesting bundle of products, and it was all about gearing up for the season, and it was done in January as part of sort of a New Year's resolution, and it worked really well. Would we be able to leverage that? Could we leverage that across several different markets? And I guess maybe I'll ask you that, Lauren. Do you think that that would be something that would make sense for MLSs to work together and maybe have RE Technology help them do that, to share that type of learning?
I think that could create a lot of buzz. You bet. I think
Gotcha.
Even if it was, I thought you were going to head down the path of not related to real estate, like the $10 Starbucks card as an example.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Whatever you do to get them there, and then you reward the winner with that, you now have yet another leveraging opportunity to say congratulations to the winner and bring more attention back to it. If we took that from an Irish level to a national level, I don't know. There may be a point at which it becomes too impersonal, but I think leveraging the merchandising on a national basis, absolutely. Love that idea.
Great. We just got a question, Lauren, and this is, you don't have to say yes or no, or you have to say yes or no, but you don't have to answer it. They said, are you willing to share the amount that you've asked vendors to contribute to you? I don't know if you are.
I would prefer not to, but I'll tell you that it's over 200 and under 1,000.
Okay, well, that's fair. Gotcha. All right, well, I want to thank Lauren. You have been wonderful. Thank you so much for your participation, and thanks to all that have attended. We will send you out the presentation afterward, and if there's anybody that would like to learn more about the Success Store, either at mid-year or afterward, feel free to call Melissa at 530-412-2048. That's Melissa McCone. Or just email her, and she'll be happy to set you up and teach you more about it. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.